Look, I'm going to be straight with you. When I first told my buddies back in Indianapolis that I was moving to Colombia, they thought I'd lost my mind. This was 2022, right after I retired from 37 years working at a manufacturing plant. I had my pension, some savings, and honestly, I was terrified. Not of Colombia, of going back home and sitting in my apartment watching the clock tick down. My name's Walter, 67 years old now, but I feel like 50. And yeah, the title of this whole thing, 6 girlfriends. I know how that sounds. Trust me, I know exactly how that sounds because I didn't believe it was possible either until it happened to me. But before I even start about that, let me tell you how I actually ended up here because it wasn't some fantasy about tropical women or any of that nonsense you read on Reddit. My marriage ended in 2018, divorced after 23 years. I'm not going to badmouth my ex-wife. We just grew apart, you know? She wanted to stay in Indianapolis, and by 2020, I realized I didn't. There's nothing wrong with Indianapolis. It's a good city. But I was 58, single, and I felt like I was suffocating in the familiar. Every bar I went to, I ran into people I'd known my whole life. Every conversation was the same. How's work? How's the house? The city felt like it was holding me underwater. So I started researching. Not dating sites, I wasn't thinking about that yet. I was thinking about cost of living. I was thinking about whether my pension would actually let me live a comfortable life without penny pinching. I wanted to travel. I wanted to not feel like a ghost in my own country anymore. I spent 2 years researching. Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia. I watched YouTube videos, read expat forums, stalked real estate listings, and I kept coming back to Colombia. Medellin specifically. You probably know about the City of Eternal Spring thing. People talk about that all the time. And yeah, the weather is genuinely incredible. 70 degrees every single day. That part isn't marketing. But what grabbed me was the videos of the transformation, the renovation of the neighborhoods. Medellin isn't what it was in the 90s. Nobody gets that anymore. In October 2022, I bought a one-way ticket. I was terrified. I had some Spanish from high school, maybe 200 words I could actually use in a conversation. But I had a plan. I was going to spend 6 months in an Airbnb in El Poblado, that's the tourist neighborhood in Medellin, and just see what happened. I had enough money in the bank that I could afford to fail. That sounds privileged, and I guess it is. But I also worked my ass off for 37 years to have that option, so I'm not apologizing for it. The flight from Miami to Medellin was about 3 hours. I remember landing, picking up my luggage, and standing outside the airport terminal absolutely shitting myself. It was hot. Hotter than I expected, even though it was Medellin, and the elevation keeps it from being oppressive. Everything looked different, felt different. I'd traveled before, Mexico, the Caribbean, but this felt like stepping into another universe. I got a taxi to my Airbnb in El Poblado. The driver barely spoke English. I barely spoke Spanish. We communicated through hand gestures and broken sentences and him laughing at my accent. When we pulled into my neighborhood, I saw this steep hillside full of colorful buildings, narrow streets, restaurants spilling out onto sidewalks, street vendors selling arepas, people everywhere. It was overwhelming in the best way possible. My Airbnb was a studio apartment on the 4th floor of a building with no elevator. That was an adjustment I didn't anticipate. But once I got up there and opened the window, I could see the whole valley. The Aburrá Valley. Mountains on both sides. Sun setting over the western ridge. And I thought, okay, this might actually be okay. The first few weeks were rough, I'm not going to lie. I was lonely. The kind of lonely you can only feel in a crowded city where you don't speak the language and nobody knows who you are. I'd sit in cafes during the day, nursing coffees, which cost about $1.50 by the way, and just listen to people talking, trying to pick up words, feeling like a ghost. But here's the thing about Medellin. People are nice. I don't mean nice in the cold, polite American sense. I mean genuinely warm. I'd go to the same cafe every morning, and by the 3rd week, the girl working there, her name was Catalina, she started making my coffee before I even ordered. She'd smile at me, ask how I was doing in slow Spanish. I could understand maybe 60% of what she said, but the warmth was unmistakable. I started taking Spanish lessons. Found a teacher on one of those apps, Preply if you're curious. For $8 an hour, I got a tutor via video call. It sounds cheap, but for Colombia, it's actually normal pricing. Everything is cheap here compared to the States. A full meal, I'm talking chicken, rice, beans, salad, a drink, costs between $3 and $5. A beer is about $1.50. An apartment in El Poblado can run you anywhere from $500 to $1,200 a month, depending on what you want. By month 2, I could have actual conversations. Broken, mistake-filled conversations, but conversations. I'd go to the same restaurants, same cafes, started recognizing people, started being recognized, and then something weird started happening. Women started smiling at me. Not in a transactional way, not sex workers or anything like that, just regular women. At the grocery store, at the cafe, on the street. They'd smile and say something nice. Hola, papá. ¿Qué tal, abuelo? Guapo. I'd been married for so long that I'd completely forgotten what it felt like to have a woman look at you with genuine interest. I want to be honest here because this is the part where the story gets weird and I need you to understand it from my perspective. I was a 64-year-old divorced man who hadn't dated anyone in 25 years. I was completely out of practice. I didn't know the rules anymore. Dating had changed. The internet had changed. I was terrified of making an ass of myself. Around month 3, I downloaded Tinder. I know. Everyone's got opinions about dating apps. But in Medellin, they're kind of the standard. I set up a profile with a few recent photos. One of me at the airport, one at a cafe, one at a park where the light was decent. I wrote something simple in Spanish and English. Retired American living in Medellin. Learning Spanish. Looking to meet people and explore the city. Within hours, I had matches. Not 10, not 20, 50, 70. I couldn't believe it. I literally thought there was something wrong with the app. I thought maybe it was showing my profile to everyone, or I'd accidentally set it to match with men or something. But no, these were real profiles. Real women, ranging from about 22 to 55, who were interested in matching with me. This is where I need to pause and be vulnerable for a second. That feeling, that sudden validation after years of feeling invisible, it was intoxicating. And I'm aware of how that sounds. I'm aware of how it makes me look. But I'm trying to tell you the honest truth of what this experience was like, not the version that makes me look good. I matched with a girl named Mariana. She was 24. Absolutely beautiful. Medical student. She messaged me first. Hola, ¿qué tal? You're new in Medellin? We started chatting. The conversation was easy. She spoke decent English. She was funny, flirty, warm. We arranged to meet for coffee. That first meeting, I was terrified. I wore nice jeans, a button-up shirt, cologne. I got to the cafe early and just sat there sweating, watching people walk by. And then she showed up. She was even more beautiful in person than in her photos. She had this energy, this confidence and warmth that made me immediately feel welcome. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her studies, her family, her dreams. I told her about retiring, about coming to Colombia, about feeling stuck back home. At the end, she grabbed my arm and smiled. You know, you're really cute for your age. And she meant it. She wasn't being sarcastic or condescending. She genuinely thought I was cute. That moment changed something in me. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. I realized that maybe this wasn't going to be the slow decline I'd feared. Maybe there was more to life than I'd thought. Over the next few weeks, I went on dates. A lot of dates. I met Elena, a yoga instructor. Sophia, who worked at a bank. Catalina, the girl from the cafe. She became more than just my barista. And then I met Anna and Valentina. 6 women, all beautiful, all interested in me, all knowing that I was seeing other people. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm either lying or I'm some kind of predator. Let me explain how this actually works because it's not what you think. See, here's what I've learned about Colombian culture that you won't find in a guidebook. The concept of commitment is different. Not worse, not better, just different. I'm not saying every Colombian woman operates this way, but the women I met didn't seem to subscribe to the American idea of exclusivity that happens on, like, the 3rd date. There's no define the relationship conversation within 2 weeks. It's more fluid, more honest, actually. Mariana knew about the other women because I told her. I'm not built for lying or sneaking around. I was upfront. Look, I'm new here. I'm learning about the city, about the culture, about myself. I'm going on dates with a few people. If that's a problem, I completely understand. And her response was, okay, but you're not going to be romantic with them, right? Like, you're not going to kiss them? I said no, no kissing, just dates, dinners, conversations. And she said, okay, that's fine. That's literally how it happened. It wasn't this elaborate negotiation, it was just honest communication. And somehow, probably because I genuinely liked all of these women as people, not just as conquests or validation machines, they all seemed to accept it. Were they happy about it? Not always. Valentina got jealous sometimes. Anna didn't like when I posted pictures with someone else on Instagram. But they all understood that I wasn't lying to them. Let me tell you about these women because they're real people and they deserve to be more than just a number in the title. Mariana is still in my life. She's 25 now, studying medicine, dreams of going to Spain to specialize in something. I think orthopedics? She's serious, focused, kind. She doesn't have time for games. She's been with me through serious stuff and I know her family. Her mom makes this incredible sancocho that we eat on Sundays. Elena is different. She's 31, teaches yoga at a studio in Laureles, which is the neighborhood next to El Poblado. She's spiritual without being annoying about it. She got me into yoga, actually. I do it maybe 3 times a week now. She's also genuinely been my best friend here. She's the one who introduced me to the other expats, who helped me when I got food poisoning that one time and didn't know where to go, who taught me enough Spanish to actually function beyond ordering food. Sophia is the banker. She's 28, very traditional in some ways, very progressive in others. She wants to get married eventually. She wants kids. She probably won't end up with me in any permanent way, and I think she knows that. But we have fun together. She loves dancing. We go to salsa clubs sometimes. I'm absolutely terrible at salsa, which makes her laugh. She also introduces me to all these Colombian cultural things I wouldn't find as a tourist. Street food festivals, local holidays, neighborhoods I'd never venture into on my own. Catalina, the barista, she's 23. She's the most vulnerable of the group, honestly. She comes from the comunas, the rough neighborhoods in Medellin. She didn't finish high school. She works hard, though. Really hard. She's trying to get her GED or the Colombian equivalent. She reminds me of where I came from in some ways. My family wasn't rich. My dad worked at a factory. I didn't go to college. So there's something about Catalina that feels like less of a novelty and more of a genuine connection. She's also the one who keeps me grounded. When I start feeling too good about myself, she'll call me out in this perfect mix of playful and serious that's very Colombian. Ana is 42. She's a businesswoman. She owns a beauty salon. She's sophisticated in ways the younger women aren't. She travels, speaks English perfectly, has traveled to the States multiple times. She's also the one who checks me the hardest. She called me out once for being too American about relationships. I can't remember what I'd done, something insensitive probably, and she was right. She's someone I actually respect as a peer, not just someone I'm dating. And Valentina is the complicated one. She's 33, works in marketing, incredibly smart, incredibly beautiful. She's the one who wanted more from me, the one who got jealous, the one who asked me directly, "Why are you doing this?" And I had to be honest and say, because I'm learning who I am, because I was invisible for so long and now I'm not, and I need to figure out what that means. She understood that eventually. We actually broke things off for a few months and then found our way back to each other in a different way. Now she's more like an occasional date, someone I see when we both want to. She's dating someone else sometimes. It's less defined and that seems to work better for us. Now the thing that everyone wants to know, but don't they get mad at each other? Don't they run into each other? Yes and no. Medellin is a big city, about 2.5 million people. El Poblado is small, so yeah, sometimes there's overlap. I've definitely had moments where I'm with one woman and see another. That's awkward. But everyone's an adult about it. Nobody screams at anyone. Nobody vandalizes my apartment. That's not how Colombian women operate in my experience. They're not vindictive. They're direct. If there's a problem, they tell you. If they're done, they're done. There's a clarity to it that I actually respect. I also want to be clear about something. I'm not some gigolo. I'm not paying these women to be with me. I'm not some creep exploiting the exchange rate. Most of these women make decent money. Mariana comes from a solid middle-class family. Ana owns a business. Sophia has a good job. They're with me because they want to be, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm genuine. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm a 67-year-old American man who's new to the country and trying to figure things out. That honesty seems to matter. But let me tell you about the moment that actually inspired the title of this thing. They all call you cute. It was about 6 months in. I was at this restaurant in Parque Bolivar with Mariana and Elena. Not at the same time, different dates, same week. And somehow we got talking about nicknames in terms of endearment. Mariana had called me Papa, which in Colombian Spanish doesn't mean father, it's like a term of endearment, kind of like papi but even more affectionate. Elena called me mi amor sometimes. Sofia called me guapo. Ana called me lindo. Valentina called me abuelo in this affectionate, teasing way. But the thing that struck me was that they all, independently, at different times, called me cute. Not handsome, not sexy, cute. And they meant it with this kind of warmth that wasn't sexual but was definitely affectionate. There's something about how Colombian women look at you. There's less of the American performance of attraction and more of just genuine warmth and appreciation. They don't hold back. They don't play it cool. If they think you're cute, they're going to tell you. The moment crystallized for me one evening. I was sitting in a small panaderia, a Colombian bakery, getting coffee and a pastry, which costs about 50 cents total, by the way. And the woman behind the counter, who I'd never met before, just said it. Uy, que abuelo tan cute. This old man's so cute. And she said it the same way she might compliment a neighbor's dog. It was just genuine observation. And for some reason, that broke something open in me. I started crying right there in the bakery. Not sobbing, just tears running down my face. The woman asked if I was okay. And I realized in that moment that I had been invisible for so long, that this simple, genuine compliment from a stranger was making me emotional. That's the real story here, I think. It's not that I'm some successful seducer of Colombian women. It's that I came here broken and invisible, and the warmth of this place, the culture, the women, the simple fact that people notice each other and say nice things, it cracked me open. After that moment, things shifted a bit. I stopped trying to juggle so many relationships. Or not stopped, but changed the energy of it. I realized I wasn't collecting women like conquests. I was collecting moments of genuine human connection. And that's a lot less morally complicated, or at least it feels that way. Now, let me talk about the practical side of all this, because I want to be honest about what this life looks like in reality. Dating in Colombia costs me maybe $300 a month. That's dinners, coffees, the occasional movie, maybe a weekend trip somewhere. Compare that to the States, where a decent date costs $50 to $100 easily. Here, a nice dinner for two is maybe $20 to $30. A movie is $3. A decent bottle of wine is $5. My overall cost of living in Medellin is about $1,200 a month. That includes rent. I moved out of El Poblado into Laureles about a year ago, got a nicer place for $700 a month that would cost $2,000 in any major American city. Utilities, food, transportation, everything. I live well here, not extravagantly, but well. I eat good food, I travel around Colombia on weekends, I have hobbies. My pension from the manufacturing plant was about $1,800 a month, which is enough to live comfortably with some left over to save. If I had stayed in Indianapolis, renting an apartment, paying American prices for everything, I would be living paycheck to paycheck, basically. Here, I'm actually saving money for the first time in years. And part of that is the cost of dating and relationships. There's no power imbalance in the economic sense. These women make decent money, but there is a difference in scale. That difference means that I can afford to take people out, be generous, do nice things. And that opens doors that wouldn't open back home, where I'm competing with men my age who are wealthier. I also want to talk about the downside, because this isn't all sunshine and tropical weather. The language barrier is real. Even after 2.5 years, I still have conversations where I realize I didn't understand what someone said to me until later. I've made embarrassing mistakes. I accidentally insulted someone's dog once by using the wrong word. I've confused past tense with future tense in ways that change the entire meaning of what I was trying to say. The bureaucracy is real too. Getting residency was a nightmare. I had to get documents from the US, have them notarized, get them translated, prove my income, deal with Colombian bureaucrats who move at their own pace. It took me 3 months. I also had to open a Colombian bank account, which required a Colombian address, which I didn't have yet. It's circular and frustrating and nothing like the American efficiency I'm used to. There's also a loneliness that creeps in sometimes, especially at night. I'm around people all day. Dates, restaurants, the gym, friends I've made. But there's this moment, usually around 10 p.m., when I'm alone in my apartment, and I realize that nobody here knew me before I was 64 years old. Nobody knows the version of me that worked at the manufacturing plant for 37 years. Nobody knows about my marriage, my ex-wife, my life in Indianapolis. I'm a character I created when I landed at the airport. And sometimes that feels liberating, and sometimes it feels lonely as hell. I've also learned about some red flags that don't exist in the American dating world, or at least not in the same way. You learn pretty quick that some women in Colombia, particularly on dating apps, are more interested in the visa or the money than they are in you. I've had women ask me directly how much money I make, ask if I'll help them get to the States, ask if I'll buy them things within the first message. It's something you have to learn to navigate. It's something that can make you cynical fast if you let it. The first time a woman asked me for money, I was shocked. I thought we had something real. Turns out she saw me as a walking ATM. It hurt, I won't lie. But I also learned that this wasn't personal. This was economic desperation meeting opportunity. And I learned to be more careful, more discerning, more honest about what I was looking for and what I could offer. I've also had to learn about the prostituta situation because, let's be honest, Medellin has a reputation. And that reputation is partly earned. There are sex workers everywhere, and some of them are incredibly good at making you think you're in a real relationship. They'll text you sweet things. They'll remember details about your life. They'll spend hours with you making you feel special. And then they'll ask you for money for a hotel or a birthday gift or their mom's medical bills. I fell for this exactly once. After that, I got smarter. But here's the thing. Even knowing about those risks, even experiencing that disappointment, I don't regret coming here. Because the real relationships, the ones with Elena and Mariana and the others, those are genuine. They're not transactional. They're built on actual compatibility and affection and shared laughter. My daily routine in Medellin looks like this. I wake up around 6:30. It's already warm. I don't need an alarm clock most days because the roosters in the neighborhood take care of that. I make coffee. Colombian coffee, obviously, which is some of the best in the world and costs about $1 for a pound of really good stuff. I sit on my balcony and watch the city wake up. Laureles is more residential than El Poblado, so it's quieter. I can see the mountains in the distance. On clear days, you can see all the way to the western mountains. Around 7:30, I head to the gym or yoga. I'm in better shape now than I was in my 50s. I'm not trying to be some jacked guy. That's not realistic at 67. But I'm strong, I'm flexible, I feel good. There's something about the weather here that makes you want to move your body. It's never too hot, never too cold. You can exercise outside year-round. By 9 a.m., I'm usually at a cafe, sometimes with someone, sometimes alone. If I'm alone, I read or work on Spanish or just people watch. If I'm with someone, we talk. The pace of life here is slower than in the States, and I've had to recalibrate my internal clock. In Indianapolis, I was always rushing, always on a schedule. Here, if someone is late to meet you, it's not a big deal. If you want to sit in a cafe for 3 hours drinking 2 coffees and talking, that's normal. That's what people do. Lunch is around noon. Colombians eat a big lunch, called almuerzo, and a lighter dinner. I've adopted this schedule. Lunch might be that cheap meal I mentioned, chicken, rice, beans, salad, juice, for $4. Or it might be something fancier if I'm out with someone. There's this restaurant in Laureles called La Juguetera that makes the best fresh juices you've ever had. A liter of juice costs $1.50. The afternoon is flexible. Sometimes I meet up with Elena and we go to yoga. Sometimes I work on my Spanish with my tutor. Sometimes I just walk around the neighborhood. Medellin has this incredible public transportation system, the metro, and they recently built these cable cars that go up into the hills where the poorer neighborhoods are. They're engineering marvels, honestly. 5 cents to ride. You can get to neighborhoods most tourists never see. You see real life happening. Evenings are usually when I see people. A date or a friend, or I might go out dancing with Sophia. The nightlife here is different from the States. There's less of this rushed, aggressive bar scene. It's more relaxed. Salsa clubs are huge. Reggaeton clubs, dembow clubs, traditional Colombian music clubs. I've learned to appreciate live music in a way I never did back home. Dinner is usually light. Maybe arepa con queso, cornmeal cakes with cheese, which costs about 50 cents. Maybe a bowl of ajiaco, which is this incredible chicken and potato soup that's basically the national dish. Maybe just empanadas from a street vendor. By 10 or 11 p.m., I'm back home. I might talk to family on WhatsApp. My sister's still in Indianapolis, a few cousins. I might Skype with my pension people or my accountant if something needs handling. Or I might just sit with the loneliness for a bit and acknowledge it before scrolling through my phone and going to sleep. Weekends are different. I try to get out of Medellin at least one weekend a month. I've been to the coffee region, incredibly beautiful, rolling green hills, coffee plantations. I've been to Guatapé, this small town with a giant rock you can climb. I've been to beach towns on the Caribbean coast. Colombia is connected enough that most places are reachable in a short domestic flight. And flights are cheap here, sometimes $30 to $50 for domestic flights. I've also started traveling more regionally. I went to Panama for a week last year. Spent time in Bogota, which I hated at first but have come to appreciate. It's colder than Medellin, actually chilly, which was weird, and it's more formal, less warm. But it's sophisticated. It has a different energy. I also went to Ecuador for a couple weeks. Each trip has taught me something about South America, about myself, about what I'm looking for in this life. Now let me get to the real reason I'm never leaving. Because that's what this is really about, right? Not the girlfriends, not the novelty, not the tropical weather. Why would a guy get on a plane, leave his entire country, his entire life, and decide to stay? It's because for the first time since I was a kid, I feel alive. Not just surviving, not just existing, but actually alive. In Indianapolis, I was going through the motions. I had a good job, a house, a marriage that lasted 23 years, but there was no spark. There was no moment where I woke up excited about the day. There was no genuine surprise or discovery or challenge. I was on a treadmill that I'd built for myself, and I was just running and not getting anywhere. Here, everything is new. Every day has surprise in it. I might go to a neighborhood I've never been to. I might have a conversation in Spanish where I actually understand most of it. That's a small victory, but it feels huge. I might meet someone interesting. I might try a food I've never had. The weather is perfect every single day. Not metaphorically, literally perfect. 70 degrees, sunny, clear. But more than that, I matter here. Back home, I was a retired guy. I was done. I was aging out of relevance. Here, I'm interesting. I'm an American, which carries a certain cachet, fair or not. I'm a foreigner navigating a new culture, which makes people want to help and include me. I'm someone with a pension and resources, which gives me freedom. But beyond all that, I'm someone who's paying attention, who's genuinely curious, who's not jaded, and people respond to that. The women, and I want to be clear about this because I think I've been dancing around it, they appreciate that I see them as people, not conquests. I'm interested in their lives, their dreams, their struggles. I ask questions, I listen. I remember things they tell me. And in a world where women are often reduced to their appearance or their usefulness, being genuinely seen can be rare and valuable. Mariana knows she can talk to me about her stress at medical school. Elena knows I'll show up if she's having a bad week. Sophia knows I actually care about her dance career, even though I'm terrible at dancing. That's why they stick around, I think. Not because of money or visas or any of that. Because I'm present in a way that people often aren't in their own lives. I'm also not going to pretend that being a single retired American man in Medellin isn't playing life on a kind of easy setting. I have privileges. I have money by Colombian standards. I'm white, which is unfortunately advantageous in a way that's not fair and that I'm aware of. I speak English, which is globally valuable. I didn't earn all of that advantage. A lot of it was just luck of birth. But I'm aware of it, and I try to be thoughtful about how I use it. I also haven't experienced the truly difficult part of being a foreigner, which is poverty. There are expats here struggling, living in bad situations, making mistakes, getting involved with the wrong people. Some of them have gotten into serious legal trouble. Some of them have gotten addicted to drugs or sex or both. I've seen it. I've heard stories. It's a reminder that this beautiful, warm place has real danger in it if you're not careful, if you don't have resources, if you're running from something instead of running towards something. I'm running towards something. I always have been, I think, even when I didn't realize it. The question people always ask me is, but what about getting older? What about healthcare? What about when you really need help? And those are fair questions. The healthcare in Colombia is actually better than people think. It's much cheaper. A doctor's visit is about $15 if you pay out of pocket. There are good hospitals. There are specialists. It's not the same as the US system, but it works. I have health insurance through a Colombian provider that costs about $40 a month. As for getting older, yeah, that's something I think about. Will I want to live here when I'm 80? I don't know. Maybe I'll move back to the States. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. I'm trying not to hold on to any future too tightly. I'm trying to just be present with what I have right now. My family back home worries about me. My sister keeps saying, "You can't stay there forever." And she's probably right. But I can stay here for now. I can stay here for the next 5 years, the next 10 years, as long as it serves me. As long as I'm growing, learning, feeling alive. The thing about coming to Colombia, about moving to Medellin specifically, is that it gave me permission to reinvent myself. I didn't have to be the guy who worked at the manufacturing plant. I didn't have to be the guy who was married for 23 years and got divorced. I didn't have to be aging invisibly in a Midwest city. I got to be Walt. I got to be interesting and curious and open to possibility. And that's the thing I'm never going to leave. Sure, maybe eventually I'll move. Maybe I'll go back to the States. Maybe I'll try living in another country. But that ability to reinvent, that freedom to choose a different life, I'm never leaving that. That's mine now. And that's worth everything. Is it perfect here? No. The city is chaotic. The traffic is insane. The rain in the afternoon is reliable as a clock and kind of oppressive. The Spanish takes effort to learn. The bureaucracy is frustrating. The cost is going up as more foreigners arrive and everything gets more expensive. I've been ripped off by taxi drivers. I've dealt with theft. I've had my heart broken by a woman I thought I had something real with. But every single day I wake up and I choose to be here. Every single day I choose the possibility and the warmth and the growth over the comfort and familiarity of home. And that's a choice nobody in Indianapolis was making. Nobody was choosing something hard and uncertain and magical every single day. So yeah, 6 girlfriends. The title of this video. They all call me cute. They're warm, they're beautiful, they're real people living real lives. And I'm grateful to all of them for letting me be part of their world, for seeing me as something other than invisible, for showing me what it looks like to actually be alive. I'm 67 years old. I'm more happy now than I was at 30. I'm more hopeful now than I was at 50. And I'm never leaving that feeling. Whether that means staying in Medellin forever or moving somewhere new, I don't know. But I know I'm never going back to invisible. That's the real story. That's the thing that will keep me in South America, in Colombia, in Medellin, or wherever else I need to go to remember that life can surprise you, that you can change, that it's never too late to reinvent. And that, my friends, is why I'm never leaving Colombia.